Good morning, this is Dick Zondag, the Garden Doctor, and we're going to talk a little bit about planting row crops this morning. First thing that you've got to do is make sure that your soil is at the proper moisture for working it up. I rototilled this morning, and you can see you take a handful of soil and you press down on it, and if it crumbles like this, it's ready to plant or ready to work. So I worked it with a rototiller. I like to make a nice level seed bed, and so what I do is I have what's called a landscape rake, and that gives me a nice even soil to plant the seeds in. Now this is the first time I've had a garden in this area because we just built a new home, and so there were plenty of weeds and things that were in the garden, so I have a little bit more organic matter than I'd like to have, but we're going to plant the beans anyway. So first thing you want to do is make a furrow. So after the seed bed is made nice and smooth by the landscape rake, we'll set that aside, and you take a hole and you make, now we're going to be planting beans, so you want to have it a little deeper than you would for some of the smaller seeded things. So we just make a nice furrow the length of the garden. Okay, and then we take the beans, and I inoculated the beans last night with the inoculant that because beans is a legume, it forms nodules, and it fixes the nitrogen from the air into nitrates for the beans. And so I just take the beans from the packet and put the bean seeds in about 3 or 4 inches apart. You know, you don't have to be real careful with it, but you want to get them in the bottom of the furrow. That way they will come up more uniformly. We do sell a garden seeder that if you have a large garden, it actually can be used for almost all the seeds in the garden, and it makes it a much easier way of planting. Okay, so now we have the beans in the soil, and I'll take the rake and just put the soil over the seeds, and then I'll tamp it down so that the seed comes in good contact with the soil. We have rain predicted for tonight, so that will get the beans off to a really good start. Okay, so now we have the beans in the ground, we have them tamped in. We're expecting the rain tonight, and so we'll put a stake on the end to mark where they are, and then we should have a notebook, and you put in the notebook the varieties that you used. I used Blue Lake's bush bean because they're really, really good. Now we're going to try and put a row of carrots in. We're going to do 2 different things. So again, we want to make the seed bed nice and level. Okay, we've got our soil level now. We're going to take the hoe and make a furrow for the carrots. Now, carrots have a much smaller seed, and so you make a much narrower, much shallower row than you would if you had, than we did for the beans. We're going to do two different things with carrots. We're going to plant some raw seed, and we're going to plant some seed tapes, see how they do. So we have our furrow made, and we're now going to plant our carrots. And because the carrots are much smaller and come up much slower, I also put a few radish seeds in with the carrots, and the radishes will come up right away and mark the row so that you can do your weeding, not weed the carrots out. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to plant half the row with the raw seed, which is in this packet, and then half of the row with the seed tape. So here we go. Come on. Hard to get the raw seed planted uniformly, and so we're going to have to do some thinning, but that's okay. Okay, that's about halfway. Now we're going to get the seed tape. And seed tapes are like tissue paper with the seed embedded in the tape at the proper spacing, so that you don't have to worry about thinning the seed tapes. And so what you do is you just find the end of the seed tape. The wind is coming up a little bit, and you put a little soil over the end so that it holds it steady, and then you just unroll the tape. So now the tape is unrolled, and we just straighten it out and keep it in the trench and cover it with a little soil so that it stays there. Okay, then we take the landscape rake and just cover the tape a little bit. The seed tape seems to germinate much faster than the raw seed, and I think it's because once the tape is wet, it stays wet, and the moisture is right around the seed, and they come up very uniformly. And there again, we pack the soil so that it comes in good contact with the seed. Okay, so now we have the beans and the carrots planted. This is Dick Zondag, Jung's Garden Doctor, wishing you a good germination in your garden this summer.